Hello, everyone. Welcome to our conference issue 20. So today we have a guest speaker, Zoltan Kochan. He's the maker of pnpm, and he will give us a talk about pnpm. I will leave the introduction of himself. So he told me he has a slides of himself. So let's welcome our speakers.
Do you see my slides? Can I start?
Yes, okay.
Okay, so I will talk about pnpm and some of the reasons why it's so fast. My name is Zoltan Kochan. You can see my name in several languages because I live in Ukraine, and I'm also ethnically Hungarian. So you see my name in Cyrill and in Hungarian. Usually in Eastern Europe, we say our surname first and then our name, but my name is Zoltan. So I live in Ukraine. I was born and raised here. In the west part of Ukraine, while right on the border is Slovakia. So currently it's not in a war zone, but of course I experience a lot of the war myself, but safe for now. I work at Bit. If you did not hear about Bit, I recommend checking it out. It's at bit.dev. It's a really great, interesting company for which can increase, improve how you work with your components. Before that, I worked at Just Answer for about 9 years. I worked as a full stack developer, and in the last couple of years, I worked as a DevOps for front-end tooling. And since about 2016, I am maintaining pnpm. I also have one child and a wife. That's about it. So before talking about pnpm, let's speak a little bit about how pnpm was created and in what context. So npm in the past created a nested node modules directory structure, but it had some disadvantages. So for instance, when you used a nested node modules, there was a lot of duplication, because if the same package was used by different sub dependencies, then this package was duplicated several times inside node modules. And the other, this was one of the disadvantages, and this other one was that these nested node modules, they were very deep sometimes, and on Windows there is a limitation to how long file path may be, and as a result, there were frequently errors on Windows with just Node.js projects because of these long path errors. So in order to solve this, they have decided to use a flat or hoisted node modules instead. And this breaking change was done in npm 3 about in 2015, and around at that time, Alexander Google has invented an alternative approach to solve these issues by using symlinks. So instead of creating a flat node modules, he used symlinks to create kind of like a virtual nested node modules. And this is when IED was created. This is package manager using this symlink node modules approach. And then a bit later, pnpm was created by Rico Cruz using the same approach. And about like 6 months later, I have joined pnpm and took it over because it wasn't maintained. And since then, I'm leading this project. Around the same time as pnpm was created, Yarn was as well created, but it was internally developed, so it wasn't, no one knew Yarn existed at that time. About a year later. Come again? Or someone needs to mute, I guess. And around a year later, Yarn was made public. So when someone says that pnpm is a new package manager, I don't believe them. It's pretty old. So so npm was, I guess, the first package manager for Node.js. It was the official one. In the past, it had multiple issues. Like it was non-deterministic. There was no log file. It was very slow, and it did not have, until very recently, it didn't have any monorepo support. So there were a lot of jokes about how unreliable npm CLI is. JavaScript, Yarn, Yarn was originally developed by Facebook. Now it is maintained completely by the community. It introduced the log file, which made it deterministic. And in version 2, they did a big breaking change by making plug and play as a default installation strategy. So now with Yarn, you don't have a node modules, which has its benefits and has some disadvantages as well. I don't know the percentage of people that love it and hate it, but I see a lot of fights because of this decision. And since version Node.js 16, Yarn is shipped with Node.js through a command called corpec. So you can run corpec enable and Yarn will be automatically installed on your system. So this is true for pnpm as well. So both Yarn and pnpm are kind of shipped with Node.js now. pnpm was created as an independent project from the very start, and now actually a lot of companies want to support pnpm. So I have a chance to work on it, not in my free time, thankfully. Currently, I work at the bit in the package manager area, and a lot of my tasks are related to pnpm. About popularity, so as you can see here, pnpm is still used less than npm or Yarn, but it has a fair amount of popularity, especially in the last 1 year, since the Vue community started to use pnpm very extensively. We have a good increase in popularity. As you can see, just in this year, we already have like more than 2 times the downloads that we had last year. Yeah, I had to add Shopee here, but I forgot. So we have a lot of big well-known companies that rely on pnpm already. So it's of course a mature project. Microsoft actually was one of the first big users of pnpm because they have the Rush project, which is a monorepo development tool, and they have found pnpm a long time ago, and they recommend to use it with Rush in Microsoft projects. So it's an interesting situation we are in, as Microsoft have purchased npm, but it still uses pnpm in some projects. So let's now talk about pnpm works, and let's see how the node modules structure that pnpm creates. As you can see here, there is a project which has one single dependency, Express, and on the left you can see the contents of a node modules folder created by npm. This could be also a node modules folder created by yarn version 1. So as you can see, even though the project only has Express in the dependencies, there are all these different dependencies in the root of your node modules. But when you use pnpm, you only have these 3 files in the root of node modules, and actually 2 of them are hidden, and only Express, your direct dependency, is in the root. This is very bad that you get all these phantom dependencies with flat node modules, because when you write code like this in your project, import cookie from cookie, this code will not fail when you run your project, even though cookie is not in your dependencies. But with pnpm, it will fail, because pnpm only added Express to the root of node modules. If you, for instance, publish your package and you forgot to add cookie to your dependencies because your code was working with npm, then later on your sub dependency Express may come out with a newer version which has some refactoring in which cookie was removed from its dependencies. Your published package will fail in that case, because your packages, manifest packages don't have cookie in its dependencies. Or another scenario might be that Express have updated cookie to a new major version. This is not a major update for Express, so it might be just a bug fix for Express. But because your code requires cookie and it had a breaking change, it will break. But with pnpm, this situation won't happen, because this code will fail like locally immediately. But okay, if you see only Express in the root of the node modules, where are all the other dependencies? So actually all the dependencies, even Express, is inside the .pnpm folder. So every dependency from your dependency tree is written in its own subdirectory inside .pnpm, where it has its dedicated node modules folder. So every dependency of your subdependency has its own node modules folder. As you can see here, Express is symlinked into this directory, which has the exact version of Express in the path. So actually, if you have multiple Express dependencies for some reason in your project, you will have multiple Express folders here. And all the dependencies of Express are inside its own node modules folder. So it looks like the old nested node modules structure that was created by npm version 2. And all the dependencies of Express are also just symlinks to other directories inside the .pnpm folder. This way you get this kind of nesting without having deep directory locations. So this isolated node modules created by pnpm has its benefits in a single project repository, but for a monorepo, it has even more advantages over flat node modules. And this is because with the hoisted node modules in a monorepo, you get even more issues, because in a monorepo you get dependencies not only from one project hoisted, but from all the projects. If in this example you can see that there are 2 projects in the monorepo, foo and bar, and each of them have one dependency, dep of foo and dep of bar, and both of them are hoisted to the root node modules of the monorepo. And this means that foo code in the foo project can actually require dep of bar, and it will work, even though dep of bar is not even a sub-dependency of foo. It has no relation to foo at all. If you will now publish foo with that code, which required dep of bar and it worked locally, it will break immediately when someone installs it. But when you use pnpm and it creates this isolated node modules structure, you don't get your dependencies hoisted to node modules. The dependencies of projects in the monorepo are symlinked from this hidden.pnpm folder in the root of the monorepo. So foo won't be able to require the dependency of the other projects in the monorepo. So you might ask yourself why npm doesn't use the same approach. Well, actually, they do plan to add support for this symlinked node modules directory structure. And it is because since they haven't added support for monorepos, they started to have a lot of these issues that I have described. So they did have an RFC, which they have merged about a new option. It was about a year ago, so I don't know what is the progress of that feature, but they do plan to support it. The reason they did not do it in the past, and it's not the default one, is because one of the reasons is because some tools don't support symlinks, unfortunately. Like, for instance, React Native with default configuration just breaks with pnpm. Also, because the default package manager npm uses this hoisted direct node module structure, a lot of the packages in the ecosystem are published in a broken state, where, as I have shown you, they are using cookie which is not in the dependencies. So because they are in this broken state, if you will try to install them with such strict directory structure, they will break. But as I said, the pnpm is a very mature project, and so we have added workarounds to all these projects over the years. And so the third issue won't happen with you, because we make a hidden hoisted node modules directory for your sub dependencies. And for the second issue, you can always use the node linker hoisted setting, and pnpm will create a hoisted node modules without using symlinks. pnpm also consumes a lot less disk space than the alternatives, and this is because we use a content-addressable store to store the installed packages. So a content-addressable storage is a directory on your disk where the files are saved at locations which are calculated from the contents of the files. So it means that if you have, for instance, several versions of the same package, and these different versions have a file with no changes in these different versions, then when pnpm will write this file to the disk, it will write these files to the same location in the content-addressable store. So you won't have 3 copies of these files. You will only have 1 instance of this file, and then it will be linked, hard linked, not sym linked, from that single location on the disk. So inside your .pnpm folder, there are actually all the files actually are just hard links to this content addressable store. Actually, it can be either hard links or copy on write files. So if you use Linux, which supports copy on write, this will be copy on write files. But it means that they don't consume additional disk space. So as you can see here, if you have like two projects on the disk, and they have the same packages, like you see the yellow package is in project A and project B, then they don't create two copies of this package. They just point to the same location on the disk. This is very efficient disk space usage from pnpm. So when you have already some projects on your disk, it means that your central storage already have lots of packages that could be reused in your next projects. So as you can see on this diagram, on the first project, pnpm uses almost the same amount of disk space as the alternatives, but on the subsequent project, it uses almost no new disk space, because most of the packages are already on the disk. So why don't other package managers use this content addressable store? Actually, npm uses it, but only for storing package archives. So you don't actually save any space with it. And Yarn does use it. It added support for a content addressable store. It is an opt-in feature as of now, but they plan to turn it on by default in version 4. Although I guess it will only work for the non-plug and play version of Yarn. pnpm is also very fast, and in some scenarios it's a lot faster than the other package managers, and this is because it uses a different installation strategy. So both npm and Yarn have separate stages for installation. At the first stage, they resolve all the whole dependency graph. Then when that's done, they switch to the next installation stage, which is fetching all the package archives from the registry. And when that's done, they switch to the last installation stage, which is writing these packages to node modules. Unlike that, pnpm tries to do everything concurrently. So it has these installation stages separately for every package. When a package is resolved, it immediately starts to fetch it from the registry. And when all the packages are resolved, the dependencies start, like pnpm starts to write them to the node modules folder. So as you can see, some of the packages can already be written, are already written to node modules, but some other packages just start the download process. So this makes pnpm very fast in some scenarios. And you might ask yourself why other package managers don't do this. So I know Yarn doesn't do it because they want to have the code to be simpler. so it's easier for contributors to contribute. Also, some of these speed advantages are thanks to the content-addressable store, and some of the optimizations are possible because of the sim-linked node modules directory structure created by pnpm. Yeah, I also wanted to show you one of the less known pnpm features, which is that you can use pnpm as a Node.js version manager. So if you have pnpm installed, you actually don't need nvm, or nvs, or volta, because you may use this pnpm enviews command to install a Node.js version and to switch between different Node.js versions. pnpm is very feature complete, so as you can see, we support almost all the features that npm and yarn support, and we have even some features that neither of them have, like the side effects cache, for instance. You can see this comparison on the pnpm website and at the feature comparison page if you're interested. That's all. Follow pnpm on Twitter and follow me as well, and visit the pnpm website. It has all the information that I have just said.
Cool. Thank you very much, Zoltan. Make sure, hi audience, make sure you visit pnpm.io for the official website of pnpm, and follow pnpm JS and Zoltan himself on Twitter. So now next session is the QA session. We have collected a bunch of questions for Zoltan, and by your welcome to send your questions on the comments, so we can ask him now so he can answer you. So first of all question is, hi Zoltan, I know you said this before already in the talk, but could you briefly answer those questions, like why pnpm is so clear, why pnpm is so fast, in like short sentence?
Yeah, it's because it has this very complex algorithm for installing packages and writing them to node modules as soon as possible. So that's why.
Cool, got it. So our next question is this is like a pnplog YAML file. Like we got like 4 different questions ask the same thing, so I put 4 together and point out 1. So what is the best practice to resolve pnplog file conflicts, especially for big projects where hundreds of devs are contributing?
Yeah, this is very subjective, I guess. There could be different approaches. My personal approach would be to just remove the log file, and actually, yeah, if you can just run pnpm installation, and pnpm will automatically resolve the conflicts.
Okay.
So yeah,
okay.
that's. But I know that there are conflicts a lot of times, and you get your pull requests broken because of that. So yeah, this is a huge problem, and we are trying to solve it in several ways. Like someone is suggesting, for instance, a new format for the log file, which could decrease the amount of conflicts. But I also would recommend, if there are some dependencies that you don't want or can't upgrade, then maybe create an override, or create a read package hook to force that version. So if even someone will remove the log file and create one from scratch, then that subdependency will stay downgraded.
Okay, Okay, got it. So I will just delete the file and in pnpm install again, or I will write. So it's a solution of that, right?
Yeah. Actually, yeah. You don't need to delete it. Just run pnpm install.
Okay.
Because
Thank you.
pnpm can automatically read the two versions of the log file and try to combine them into one.
Okay, thank you. So our next question. Although pnpm gave a huge speed improvement over our previous packaging manager, Lerna, which took over 20 minutes to bootstrap. So it still feels slow. Full bootstrap takes around 6 minutes. So how can we expect the performance bottleneck?
Yeah, I don't think I ever seen install to take 6 minutes. Maybe
Okay. Maybe the project is huge, too huge.
I wonder how many dependencies it has. I think, yeah, or maybe it has some post-install scripts. Maybe that's what takes so much time. And I wonder if you use a shared log file or not. Because if you don't use a shared log file, it means that you have a separate node modules for each of your projects in the monorepo, and it's much slower than using a shared log file.
Okay.
I know in some companies they prefer separate log files for each project. So maybe if that's the case, then just use a shared log file, so a single log file in the root of the monorepo, and it will be much faster.
Okay. So make sure you check your project. Make sure you use a shared log file.
But this should not never happen. I mean, 6 minutes. If it happens, I don't know. Give me some steps to reproduce them.
Okay. So we got our next question. Since modules are hard linked to a global store, how does pnpm handle punching node modules? Example like punch package in different projects.
So yeah, actually we had this feature which is called side effects cache, and I was able to reuse that code for patch package. So the way it works is that side effects cache is caching the results of post-install scripts. So for instance, if you have a dependency which should be built, then it will be only built the first time you install it. And the next time you install it, it will be just hard linked from the pre-built sources. So every package actually can be stored in several places in the content-addressable store. So actually, when a package has patched versions, it will be like pnpm will like consider each patched version a different version, and it will be hard linked from a different place in the store. So yeah, that in a nutshell, that's it. It's hard to explain it shortly.
Okay. I guess they all get some inspiration from your answers. So there's a related question like how to link source from another folder like Yark. Does workspace support absolute their name, folder name or something? Is the question clear to you?
No, I don't know.
You don't understand.
Ask me directly later.
Okay, we can skip this one. Let's go next one. So how does pnpm handle peer dependencies? Sorry.
It's a very broad question. I'm not sure what it means. Okay, I'll try to answer. So npm since versions 7 or 8 automatically installs peer dependencies, right? For now, pnpm isn't doing that, but it has an option to do the same. So if you want peer dependencies to be automatically installed, just set auto install peers to true. I think we will make this option true by default in the next major version. And so if you mean how it works in this isolated node module structure, then it's when a package has peer dependencies, and these peer dependencies they can be resolved to different versions in the same project. So in that case, pnpm creates several copies of this dependency inside node modules, and in the different copies, the different versions of symlinks are referenced. So maybe you have noticed when you opened your .pnpm folder, there is sometimes this longer directory locations which contain a hash. Well, usually it's just the package name and the package version, but sometimes there is also a hash in the end. So this means that this package has peer dependencies, and the hash is calculated by the names of peer dependencies and their versions. If you want to read more about it, there is a page on the on our website in the advanced section. It's called How Peer Dependencies Work.
Okay. Okay, let's go next question. So there are packages with different dependencies whose deep dependencies are similar. So these similar dependencies of dependencies may have different instances. Is there any way to optimize it?
Also, not sure what you mean.
I'm not sure about. Okay.
If you want to force a single version of a dependency, you can use overrides. If you want to, if this package needs to be a singleton, then this package needs to be a peer dependency. And then in that case, you can install one single version in the root, and you won't have like different versions.
Okay.
So yeah, these two approaches, either overrides or peer dependencies.
Okay. Okay. So our next question. So different package managers have different behaviors in some situations, which cause unexpected results, especially in a monorepo. Do the authors have any plans to unify it, to create a standard, among different package managers?
I think no.
No.
I mean, we are
no.
very competitive and not necessarily in the best relation with each other. Actually, with Yarn, we try to communicate, and sometimes we do the same changes. But with npm, it's really hard to make a decision with npm because they are not very responsive. They are slow to ship changes. They have a lot of bureaucracy. It's a lot easier to cooperate with Yarn. And actually, we have lots of shared dependencies with Yarn. So pnpm uses a lot of Yarn dependencies, and Yarn has some dependencies on npm, on pnpm. I mean.
So it's more like yeah. Okay, I understand. Let's go next question. So will pnpm focus on following the features of npm or Yarn, or focus more on its own features?
I think it mostly depends on what the users want. So sometimes they really want some feature from npm or Yarn. In that case, it's hard to ignore this request because they will refuse to use pnpm without that feature. Like for instance, with the auto installation of peer dependencies. I personally wasn't a big fan of that feature, but the amount of requests for this feature was so big that it was easier to implement, to work on it than to explain every day why it's not in pnpm.
Okay.
So yes, sometimes it's easier to just implement it, but yeah, I do prefer to work on features that are new, like new inventions. And actually recently I have implemented a resolution mode. You can search for it in the docs, which is a new installation strategy for pnpm, and it allows to make a better use of local cache and make installation faster.
Okay, cool. Make sure you check the new stuff about pnpm after this. Let's go next question. So pnpm is a very big project. How are you able to maintain every part of the code base?
For me, it's easy because it was basically completely written by me or refactored, but it's not as big as npm or Yarn, I think, because unlike npm and Yarn, pnpm doesn't actually re-implement all the commands. So like for instance, we don't have our own configuration system. We just use npm's configuration system. And for publish, we don't implement publish. We just pass through to the npm client. Or for updating distribution tags, it's also not implemented in pnpm. So pnpm basically has only the commands necessary for installation: install, update, outdated, and stuff like that. So this makes it a bit easier. And also I try to create many smaller components which make the code easier to understand. I guess that's it.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier, like most work you did it by yourself. Are you considering to expand the team, like to make it like more people join you to work on pnpm?
Yeah. Of course, I want more people to work on it because I'm in a country that has a war, so I can be drafted to the army, I guess, and who will maintain pnpm? Or I can, I don't know, a bomb can hit my house, and
Oh my God.
I want my project to live. And recently, there were a lot of contributions from a company, Blitz Tech, I think.
Cool.
So I think they will help in the future.
Okay. I hope more people will join to contribute to pnpm too. So let's go next question. What is the roadmap of the project now?
Yeah, I think my next big planned features are I want to experiment with server-side resolution. So As I have mentioned, I have added this new resolution mode, which is called time-based, and it was added exactly in order to support server-side resolution, because with the way currently package managers install, they can't really use a local cache, because we always try to install the latest version. This resolution mode changes the expectation a little bit, so it would allow us to use more cache, and if we can use more cache, then we can use a more decentralized registry, which will make less requests to the public npm.js org registry. So this is the next big thing that I want to try. And also I want to try in the future to implement a custom Node.js ES loader. This would allow us to resolve modules directly from the content-addressable store. And in that case, pnpm would not need to write any files to node modules. So it would be kind of like Yarn plug and play, but in a less hacky way.
Okay, cool. So here one of my colleagues sent the link about resolution mode in the comments. Feel free to check out about the resolution mode on pnpm. So here's the next question. Oh, yeah. So ask about the contribution, like how can we contribute to the project?
Yeah, you can just search for an issue or that you think is easy to solve. We have lots of open issues in the repositories.
Yeah, we know, because next question is we have more than 800 issues. So we want to know your opinion, like some of them are like future requests, and this person see like pnpm has an RFC repo. So
so pnpm is a very active project, so I don't have time to answer all the issues. I have like more than 20 notifications a day. Unfortunately, I cannot handle it. So that's why I hope someone will hire someone to work on pnpm. I know a company that wants to do it, and it should be easier than a bit.
Okay.
So if you want my attention, make a pull request. Pull requests have the highest priority for me, and I will always help to ship a pull request, because pull requests are they happen a lot less than other types of notifications, and I see that the commitment of a person when he or she works on some changes. Okay. But if you're not sure that your changes will be merged, it's better to ask me before that. I don't want you to work on something that won't be merged. So yeah, it's better to first ask in the issue. If I don't answer, try to ping me in the Discord, I guess. There is a contributions channel in Discord.
Okay. Could you send me the Discord link later so I can share with my colleagues? So if you are interested to contribute or solve the issues, you can just try work on it. And if you want to, work on the project, you can just start a PR and make sure you ask Zoltan first.
Yeah, we have some donations also, so we can pay a little bit for contributions if you make some good change. The link to Discord is in the footer of our website. I can copy it and post it to the chat. So, but also even reading the issues and answering to issues is a big help.
Cool. So if you want to contribute, you can do answer or solve the issues poll PR, and make sure you ask Zoltan before you want to contribute on PR.
Yeah.
And
Also,
feel free to join the. Yeah, you go.
You can also answer questions on Stack Overflow. There is a pnpm tag, and there are a lot of unanswered questions.
Cool. So let's go on next question. So we the questions that we collected is finished. So we got a bunch of questions from our audience live now. So so the first question is, what's the reason choosing hard link over symlink when pointing to the content store?
Symlinking, so this is just because Node.js needs to think that the package is inside the Node modules. So when you use a hard link for the package manager, the real location of that file is inside the Node modules, and it can find its dependencies inside Node modules. If you use a symlink to the content-addressable store, then the Node.js will resolve the location of that module to the content-addressable store, and it won't able to find the dependencies there. So it needs. That's the reason.
Okay.
Of course, we could also create some central isolated Node modules on the disk where it would contain all the different variations of dependencies and symlink there, and it might work, but it will also break some tooling as well, because some tools expect the location of the dependency to be inside your project.
Cool. Thank you for the answer. So another question is, does content-addressable store all the different versions of the same file?
Does the content-addressable store a different version of the same file?
Yeah.
No, when the content of a file is the same, it can be even in different packages. So, for instance, you have a MIT license in several packages, then it will be hard linked from the same location on the disk, because the hash of that file is the same, and the hash only uses the content of the file. It doesn't include the package name or the package version, just the content. So even if you have completely different package, not the same package but different versions, but a different package name, it will be hard linked from the same location.
Okay. Thank you. So another question is, I love the pnpm deploy feature, but I saw it's still an experimental feature. So what is unstable in this feature now?
It's mostly because I don't use this feature, and I can't really guarantee that it works.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know what features it might lack for the deploy. I think you should be safe to use it, because we are for sure not planning to deprecate it. It is just that some breaking changes may be introduced. So just pin the version of pnpm if you use this feature, and track our releases for changes. But actually, I don't really expect issues. Maybe it will be non-experimental soon, because there were a lot of bugs already that we have fixed.
Okay. So it's okay, he can still use it because you won't deprecate it. So
yeah, we won't remove it. No,
yeah.
There are no plans to remove it. I just wanted to be flexible to make breaking changes for now.
Okay, thank you. So our next question is, what hashing algorithm does pnpm use for the store? What will happen if there are two files that share the same result?
So we use SHA 512. So I don't think with this algorithm two files can have the same hash. It's not like SHA1, which should also be good enough for. It's not good enough for security, I guess, but it's good enough for hashing because as it's used by Git. Yeah, someone already commented that. Yeah.
Okay.
I used SHA512 because I compared the speed performance with SHA1, and it was basically the same performance. So I've seen no benefit using the other one.
Okay, thank you. So our next question is, if we want to use types from some sub-dependencies, is it recommended to explicitly install the packages, since we can only care about types to pass down to our dependencies?
You want to control types of some sub-dependencies?
Use types from some,
use types from sub-dependencies.
Yeah.
Well, actually, yeah, I think you need to install it as a dependency. But I wonder if it should be a singleton. If there will be a problem, maybe just use an override to also force. When pnpm installs and it resolves dependencies in sub-dependencies, it will always prefer the version which is also in your direct dependencies. So if you install these types as your direct dependency, it should also use the same version in your sub-dependency, unless it's a different major version. If you need a different major version, then and it's not fine to have two different versions of the types, then you can use overrides to force the same version in the sub-dependency as well. Okay, I hope that answers it.
Okay. Oh, what about the singleton talking? I missed it. Like you were mentioning about something about singleton.
Singletons. Yeah. So if you need a singleton, the standard way to make a singleton is to use a peer dependency. So peer dependencies are for singletons.
Okay.
But you can also use overrides to force a single version of a package.
Okay, thank you. So we have another question about content addressable. So does content addressable storage introduce any inefficiency or lag during installation? Inefficiency, like
introduce any inefficiency or lag during installation?
Yeah.
No, I think it works quite well. I think we probably had issues in the past, but by now it works reliably. The content addressable storage was introduced actually when COVID started. About that time, I was at home. I had more time to work on it, and that's why I added it. And maybe at the beginning it had some issues, but by now it's very reliable. Yeah.
Okay, so it works quite well now when cause
yeah, it's already used like more than 2 years.
Okay, so now we finished all the questions from audience. Anyone have more questions? If no, like our sessions is end. Let me see. Thanks, Zoltan. Thank you for your time. And make sure you visit pnpm official site, pnpm.io, and follow pnpm.js and Zoltan on Twitter. Thank you very much, Zoltan. And thank you for the audience. And you feel free to leave the meeting now. I will just put some music for relaxing.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.